The average teacher in South Africa earned in the top 5% of South Africans in 2019. This is all according to a report published by Stellenbosch University's research on Socio-Economic Policy. Now, on average, teachers had higher hourly wages than at least 70% of all formal sector paid employees. If teacher salaries are adequate, then why is South Africa's public education system still struggling to improve education outcomes? To help us get some clarity around these questions, we speak to Paul Esterhuizen, CEO of School Days. A very good evening to you, Paul. Thank you so much for your time. I suppose it's quite important to try and get some understanding and why we're seeing low interest requirements for teaching qualifications at tertiary levels when the outcome is so important to the future of leaders and people who will benefit the economy of the country.
Yeah, thank you, Mpo, and good to be on the show. And to all the viewers out there, sit up and listen to me for a few moments. We've had some really substantive, well-qualified research coming from Stellenbosch. And there are a number of initiatives that have been coming to the fore recently and citing various reasons as to what we're doing. So I know the challenges in South Africa. We seem to move from one situation, from one crisis to the next. There's a scandal brewing. We're never short of breaking news in this country. And it's been a drum that we continue to beat, and it's for many about saying, why is our education system not delivering? Why are we not getting great results in matric? So just rolling back, and I know we're already at the end of the first term this year, and we've already moved well into the year with our sights set on getting our matriculants to come out with great results. If we look at the public schools over the last year, in our matric year, 1 in 5 of the learners in the public schools who wrote their matric exams failed. And the criteria for that says then, where are we missing? Where are we going wrong? And one of the elements that's come out of this from Stellenbosch's research is that the actual ability, there's a shortage of qualified maths and science teachers, and it's been one of the contributing causes for the country's poor maths and science standards that have come out. And they've looked a bit deeper and said, hold on a moment. Most universities in South Africa offering a Bachelor of Education degree don't require a minimum mark for maths or maths literacy. So you're saying, but hold on a moment. Why is that? South Africa has the 3rd lowest score globally in mathematical ability. And this is according to studies that were done and are globally recognized by trends in international mathematics and science study. So less than 1/3 of all our matrics, those in grade 12, take maths. And only half of those who do take maths pass. So what are we missing here? So the Department of Basic Education has actually said to us that half of the maths and science heads of departments in secondary schools are not in fact qualified to offer appropriate support to teachers because they have not majored in either of those subjects. So the Stellenbosch report goes a little bit deeper and says, and it was Nick Sproul and Peter Courtney who said at a very base level, a teacher cannot teach what they don't know. Yeah. So what does this beget? If we've got low criteria for going to study education, does this become a default degree? And are we attracting a lesser quality of student? A student who says, I've got a matric and I've got a matric entrance exams certificate to go and study. So they go to a university and they look at the degrees that they want to aspire to study. And that the lowest level of this is the entry into study education. So the criteria for accepting, it always becomes a default degree. And, based on this information, we're headed in a situation where we're not attracting the top performing students into education.
And with that being a default degree, and more students being accepted for teaching degree, and it's not aligned to their passion, what does this mean for the foreseeable future, the impact on our entire education system?
So for me, what this is really unearthing is the fact that we haven't been addressing something that's been staring us in the face. and that the research is as qualified, and it's actually endorsed by the Department of Basic Education, who are looking at this 3-year project in Stellenbosch. And if we don't recognize top-performing teachers, and we don't recognize top-performing students and encourage those students to come to the universities and say, I want to teach, I want to be a teacher. So the challenge goes out to every one of us listening right now, watching on TV and saying, what are we doing about this? Because part of our mission in our school days world is to say a child will go to school for 200 days a year. Are we optimizing that? And our end goal has got to be to say, how do we develop citizens of this country who are citizens whom we can be proud of? How do we get good citizenship? James Dyson, who founded he's an engineer who founded the Dyson business. He said the mission has got to be simple. We've got to solve the problems that others are ignoring. Yeah. So if we have a problem, and we have a problem in leadership, or we have a problem in, let's look at education. If we're believing that our results are not great, and we're trying to ascertain why and how do we reverse this, there's no overnight fix. The reality is we've got to take those school days that a child will have at school, and we've got to ensure that the caliber of the teachers that are coming into the industry are the creme de la creme that are coming out of school with top marks. So do we create a career for a young learner matriculating, looking at what they want to do and say the best path that you could be put on is to come and be a teacher, to teach our generations that are coming to follow. And that's where we're at with this. So the research says we're getting it wrong. The research says you're attracting a student with a lesser academic capability. So what should the universities be doing long term? Well, the fact of the matter is that there is no criteria amongst the universities offering a Bachelor of Education degree to say what your maths mark has to be. So either maths or math literacy, and you've passed. You qualify for this. So raise the bar and say, why is maths so crucial? It's because in the assessment of who you're teaching, in the whole direction of what teaching is, it starts at that base level with reading and teaching mathematics so that we get learners who can actually then go all the way to matric and never miss in those 200 days a year for now 13 years because grade R has been incorporated into the Department of Basic Education. It's such a compelling space for us as a country that we've got to encourage learners with top marks and say to them, we need to incentivize you. So here's my one preferred solution. Let's find those students. Let's find those communities and families, wherever you're coming from, get those good marks in your matric. And then let's look at saying, how do we, as corporate South Africa and as citizens of South Africa, create bursaries for those learners and say, we will create a bursary for you to be able to go through your matric into the universities and come out as teachers. And this is a 4-year project. This is not an overnight fix, but we've got to start doing it. And for me, this would be something which the Department of Basic Education would so readily embrace. So corporate South Africa.
Corporate South Africa is a good idea. And of course, you can't teach someone to be passionate about a certain sector. How will it go beyond corporate South Africa jumping on here and finding top students and making the career attractive? I mean, it's got to be attractive, but beyond passion. Students need, the ones with the top marks are probably going for degrees like engineering and those faculties so that in the end of it, they can earn the money that they're capable of earning. So I suppose money itself could also be a factor here.
So let's put this into stepping stones. We say stepping stone one is let's attract the right intellect to come and deliver the curriculum in the schools. And this is a long-term program, but it starts today. And then let's look at, when you're a mom or when you're a dad and you're taking your child to school for those very first years, those very first days, you're saying, I want my child to be in the class with the best teacher. Who's the best teacher? You try and find out who's going to nurture your child to actually realize their aptitude for who they are. And we all want that. So you're right, because we should be recognizing the high-performing teachers. And the way this industry works at the moment is you start at the bottom of the ladder, and every year you can progressively earn more. So long service means you're earning better than a new entrant. But what happens if I get an entrant who comes in, is a high achiever as a teacher? That person ought to, in the corporate world, we'd recognize them, ramp them up the payroll, and say to them, you're critical to the survival of our business. So how do we get leadership recognizing that? Schools, communities, principals. The Department of Education is well funded. We do have enough money. We need to get the projects managed. We need to actually deliver. So the call from this is, how do we involve corporate South Africa to say we want to create a standard of teaching that delivers a curriculum that will take a child from grade R through to grade 12 and make them a citizen of South Africa in whom we can be proud. And then the rest will look after itself, because it's a proven fact that over time, a learner or a student who excels in some of the mathematic capabilities is inevitably a contributor to the growth of industry, to the growth of a GDP in a country, and they become valuable citizens. And what we tend to have in this country is this massive disparity of, I will get my degrees, my qualifications, and then the world is my oyster. And I'm saying, well, what about us? We don't want to let you go. We want to build. And education's the cornerstone. It's the anchor. It's the rock face, coal face that we have to be staring at and saying, we need to get this right.
Yeah.
We've got some great aspirations, and to have some time on your show, and thank you. What we're doing at School Days is to say we want to be catalysts and facilitators of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It really does go without saying that the knock-on impact of this will be fewer qualified to teach more of the rigorous academic subjects like maths and science. So it is really important to make sure that all the initiatives that can be put together to really encourage young people, high academic students to go into the profession. But let's perhaps leave it there for now. Thank you so much, Paul Esterhuizen, CEO of School Days. Thank you for your time.